Everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at this 2021 Lexus LX 570. This is the third generation of the Lexus LX. It's built on the 200 series Land Cruiser platform, or rather I guess you could say this is a 200 series Land Cruiser, just the Lexus version. This thing has been on sale in its current form now since the 2008 model year. Over that time it's had 2 updates, so this is it in its current and final form. This thing will be fully redesigned supposedly for the 2022 model year. In its current form it's pretty impressive but also hilariously obsolete. Mechanically the ride is incredible, it's packed with utility, it makes plenty of power, but that engine is completely outdated. It returns 14 miles per gallon combined. The cabin is really comfortable and very upscale, but again, the technology is totally obsolete. It's got probably the worst infotainment system on the market right now. Altogether though, that makes this thing pretty interesting in my opinion. I'm a huge fan of the Land Cruiser. I own a 200 series myself, and this vehicle is, yeah, a rather interesting take on the Land Cruiser formula. So anyway, let's do a tour of the LX and then take it for a drive. So the appearance of this thing is somewhat polarizing. The grille is quite aggressive, I would say. I do like this color. It's silvery beige. These are 21-inch wheels. They are wrapped in road-oriented all-season tires. One of the big differences between the LX and the Land Cruiser is that the Land Cruiser has a mechanical suspension with an active sway bar disconnect system. The LX, though, has an air suspension, so this thing can actually raise and lower itself. The LX has built-in running boards, so these are more or less attached to the rocker panels, so that kind of hinders the vehicle's off-road capability, which is a little bit odd that they would add that. Back here, again, there's some cladding down below on this one. Kind of hurts this thing's case as the ultimate off-road vehicle. Underneath, it is the ultimate off-road vehicle in my opinion, but all this cladding serves to kind of detract from that. Split rear tailgate, that's probably my favorite design element on any Land Cruiser. Power operated, though you can turn off that power functionality. Sure does take a little while to open up, so that's up. And then this is also a power release, so used to be a mechanical lever, but now it pretty much just operates a button. So then you kind of still have to pull it. At least it's pretty nicely damped. So you can now get the LX as a 5-passenger model. I think that was introduced for the 2019 model year, though this one, you'll notice, is a 3-row. So this 3rd row seats 3 across, giving you room for up to 8 people. Kind of odd though, again, it's power operated. On the Land Cruiser, there are handles right here and right here that allow you to put the 3rd row down and then you just grab it and fold it up. It's really quick and easy. On the LX though, it's power operated, so this operates the right one. So put it down. So you have to press and hold it. So there's that, and then push this button. Oh, I guess that only closes it. So it's half power down and then full power to put it back up. There we go. Took a minute. Clever magnet system. Clips that on there. So then to put it down, you put that up. There's your headrest. So why don't we just get this out of the way now? Not a lot of leg room, and the seats sit pretty much flush on the ground. So, not great. It's kind of one of the weird things with the Land Cruiser platform with the current 200 series is it really doesn't make a good 3-row SUV by today's standards. If you're looking for a 3-row luxury SUV, this ain't it. Anyway though, to put the 3rd row down, put that down, and then I think, there you go. And then put it up. That motor will lift it up, huh? There's a latch right there. So, in my opinion, a whole lot of complexity for not a lot of benefit. I really don't know why they think they need to make this power. But anyway, one more thing, 120 volt, 100 watt AC inverter in the cargo area. And yeah, that's about it. So there are also 2 little compartments in the tailgate. In foreign markets, that would hold, I believe, a hazards triangle, but they cheap out in the US. It's not federally mandated. So we don't get that in the US. And over here, well, why don't we just show this off? This is the toolkit for changing the spare tire. So, see, you've got your lever, wrenches, pliers, and then this, I'm not sure what that does, but everything you need here to change a flat. And then the spare tire is located under here. Looks like it's a matching spare, so it's nice, 21-inch spare. Fits under there. And then accessing that spare, you put this together into this big rod, and then like you would in a full-size truck, lower the spare down via that hole in there. So you gotta manually put the tailgate up, and there's a button for putting down the rear glass. And finally, it's closed. The key on this vehicle is pretty unbecoming of a six-figure luxury SUV. Typically, Lexus keys come in a leather case. This is just the key that lives inside of that case, but either way, yeah. If your key looks like this, that's a sign that your vehicle is due for a redesign. Startup is really smooth. The 5.7 liter V8 sounds pretty smooth, quiet, very little vibration. Anyway, let's take a look at the window sticker. So this is a 2021 Lexus LX 570. The color is Atomic Silver. It's built at the Land Cruiser plant in Japan. This one retails for $106,755 once you include that $1,300 destination fee. That's a lot of money for a vehicle that is now 13 years old. Fuel economy is hilariously bad. 12 mpg city, 16 highway, 14 combined. That's actually worse than the Land Cruiser. Land Cruiser is rated at 13 city, 17 highway, but still does only return 14 combined. Powertrain in this thing is a strong, reliable, dependable 5.7 liter Toyota V8, making 383 horsepower. Torque, I believe, is rated at 403. Something funny there, the LX calls for premium fuel. I think that's where they get an additional 2 horsepower, because the Land Cruiser makes 381 horsepower and 401 pounds-feet of torque and only calls for regular fuel. This one comes with the Sport package, which consists of 21-inch wheels, a unique grille, extra spoilers front and rear, which is idiotic on a vehicle like this, and then chrome accent side mirror caps and a black headliner. That all costs $6,110, and yeah, it's pretty ridiculous on a body on frame luxury SUV with a solid rear axle. As for this cabin, typical Lexus luxury. Build quality is impeccable. Materials used are the best of the best. It's kind of squishy right here, soft leather. Top of the dashboard, there's more of a durable leather. It's almost plastic-like, actually. Some contrast stitching here. This one has this dark brown wood. I guess you could say it's kind of a walnut. And then the seat color is pretty nice. Altogether, the color scheme on this one in particular looks pretty good. I like it a lot. The silver works quite well with this basketball leather interior. As for the bad, the infotainment system in this vehicle is totally offensive. It's absolutely terrible. You have to use it via this knob right here. This is found in most Lexus vehicles these days. It's not a touchscreen. This interface seems like it was probably designed in, I don't know, 2012. Even the color scheme is unbecoming of a luxury vehicle. You have to use this lever here. So you rest your wrist here and then use this lever, and you've got a back button, menu, map, and then up and down keys. Yeah, it's just not at all intuitive, and it's actually a distraction to be using this while you're driving. I would argue that this system makes the vehicle less safe, but yeah, this needs to go. Beyond that, this is a pretty cool vehicle just the way you interact with it happens to be offensively bad. Moving on, the gauge cluster is pretty old-fashioned here. You've got mechanical gauges here, 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 with just a little color screen in the middle there, and that's the same color screen you get in everything from the Tacoma to the Corolla to the RAV4 to the Lexus ES. It's pretty much found throughout Toyota's lineup. Somewhat dated as well. Steering wheel design's kind of nice. You get paddle shifters, 8-speed automatic transmission. Paddle shifters don't really do a whole lot. I guess you could say the interesting thing with this vehicle are the off-road features. So this is pretty much where all the controls live for those different systems. So like the Land Cruiser, the Lexus LX uses full-time four-wheel drive. You could basically call it an all-wheel drive system. It does have a locking center differential, so if you wanted to go from all-wheel drive into what will effectively be four-high, you would pretty much just lock the center diff, and that would give you four-high like capabilities. And then to go into four-low, you would press this and then pull back on this paddle here. It doesn't like that because I'm not in neutral. But anyway, that would put us into four-low. Like I said, air suspension. So right here is where you can raise and lower the vehicle. So you go up. You can see it says high. And the front end lowers at first because it starts with the back. So the back is raising and now the front is slowly going back up. It lowers really quickly. It takes a little bit longer to raise. Again, because it's a fairly old system. It's proven, but it's been around since this thing came out in 2008. And in fact, the Lexus LX 470, that's the previous generation LX, it's based on the 100 series Land Cruiser, has offered air suspension since 1998. So this is not exactly a new system, but it is proven, and for the most part, it's pretty reliable. And other off-road features include you can adjust the air suspension between Comfort, Eco, Normal, and then 2 different sport modes. Again, big, thirsty, body-on-frame luxury SUV. I don't really know why you'd want sport mode. I tend to do most of my driving in comfort just because it really leans into the air suspension's strengths. Over here, you've got crawl control and multi-terrain select. Again, this is offered in the Land Cruiser and in the Tacoma and the 4Runner, and as of recently, the Lexus GX as well. So crawl controls like off-road cruise control, and then MTS, that's your different terrain modes. You can choose to have the vehicle start in second gear. That's what this button is. Again, this is found in pretty much every Toyota truck. It stands for electronically controlled transmission, second gear start. We referenced this before. This is for the locking center differential. Unfortunately, the 200 series isn't offered with a locking rear differential in the US. In fact, the Land Cruiser has not been offered with a rear locker in the US since the 1999 model year. And in fact, no Lexus since the LX 450, which was last sold for 1997, has been offered with locking front or rear differentials. This turns off stability control. This is your hill descent and ascent control, kind of turns on crawl control as well if you're in 4-low. And then this is a cool feature. It's off-road turn assist. So the idea here is if you're on gravel or dirt, you press this button and then say you're turning to the right, and the vehicle will brake the inside rear wheel to theoretically cut down on your turning radius. This can help with tight switchbacks off-road. I think that about covers all the off-road features. One thing I should reiterate, the LX has air suspension, whereas the Land Cruiser has a mechanical suspension and KDSS. That stands for Kinetic Dynamic Suspension System. That's a feature where the sway bar system will relax when you're off-road to allow for more articulation, and it'll stiffen when you're on pavement to keep the vehicle more level in turns. It's a pretty great system. Unfortunately, though, since the LX has air suspension, it does not come with that KDSS. And moving on, garbage. Here's your 8-speed automatic transmission lever. Here are your cup holders. You do get a wireless charging pad in the LX that lives up here. Unfortunately, though, they just don't really make the most of the space up here. Beyond these cup holders, there's really not storage space anywhere on this center console, and that's in part because right here you've got a built-in refrigerator. So you can turn this thing on, and then that's cold air right there. I have one of these in my Land Cruiser, actually the same thing as in my Land Cruiser, and you can cool down a drink from room temperature in about an hour. It's pretty impressive. But again, you sacrifice storage space because this is kind of a refrigerator and not exactly set up to hold things like, I don't know, receipts and change and other items. One more thing. Electronic parking brake on the LX. The Land Cruiser still has a manual lever right here. I think that covers the front seating area. To recap, super high quality, lots of cool off-road features, the world's worst infotainment system, which is really unfortunate. Now let's hop in the second row. So plenty of space back here. Not much of a hump either, so that's pretty nice. Your second row passengers can ride along pretty comfortably, and I would say there's plenty of space for even 3 people to sit across and be relatively comfortable. There's a fold-down armrest that has some seat controls, so you've got heated and ventilated seats in the second row. That's pretty nice. And then dual zone climate, so I guess you'd have 1, 2, 3, and 4 total climate zones here in the LX. Quite nice. We'll go ahead and turn down the fan. That's a little bit loud. There we go. There's even an auto function. These buttons are really nice as well. They're nice rubber. Really satisfying to press there. Again, though, that speaks to the overall quality of this vehicle. You have DVD screens back here, which are very much obsolete in a 2021 model year vehicle today. But anyway, here they are. What's kind of funny is the way you fold these seats down is you fold the back down and then they tumble forward. And when they're tumbled forward, they're actually pressing on these screens. So there's really not a way to fold the seats flat and not be potentially compromising or even breaking these ridiculously expensive DVD screens that are attached to the backs of the front seats. So that's definitely a design flaw of the Land Cruiser formula here. But anyway, here it is. I've always strayed away from even playing with these just because they're really old and antiquated. This system costs $2,000, and if I could find the remote. Here's the remote. So this is your remote. Welcome to 2004 in your $107,000 luxury SUV. There's the switch to turn on the left screen. So it's not a touch screen because, God forbid. And then you can go through radio stations, Bluetooth. You have to have a disc or something plugged in to view anything visually. But yet another garbage piece of technology here in the Lexus LX 570. This is a fantastic vehicle. They've just almost ruined it by putting no effort whatsoever into these infotainment and entertainment systems. We can do our best to forget that these screens even exist here. Other things back here, traditional sunroof. The LX doesn't really mess around with panoramic nonsense. Dome lights overhead. In the door panels here, you've got a sunshade. So that goes in pretty nicely. Blocks out, I don't know, 30% of the light. Grab handles overhead, there's an air vent, and not a whole lot else. I think we covered it. Here, let's take a look at how the seats fold. So, they do move forward and backward via this button here. Yet another thing that is manually operated in the Land Cruiser, and kind of, again, unnecessarily complicates this vehicle. But put this back. Now we'll tumble the seats forward. So the first thing you do is, well, the only thing you really have to do is grab this lever. So it's gonna first put the seat back down, and then it releases the seat bottom from right here. And then you'll notice the crunch. That goes right into your $2,005 or maybe $1,000 DVD screen here. So definitely a design oversight. Weird. Anyway, though, while we're here, this is a fun little item, kind of an Easter egg of the Land Cruiser, but it does serve a purpose. Right here, you've got these little plates that are supposed to come out. Anyway, I can't get these out. I feel like I'm gonna break them, but they do come out, and once they're out, they clip right here to give you a flat load floor when you have the seat tumbled forward. The third row seats have the same thing. Another weird thing, there are even straps for putting the second row seat down. So this thing comes out, gives you this little hook. And what you do with that is to release the Velcro and then pull this out, give yourself some slack, then you clip it to this grab handle here and then pull it, pretty much ratchet it down, and then connect the Velcro there maybe not perfect, but that's how you keep the second row seats held forward so that they don't just fall back down when you accelerate. So definitely a quirk of the Land Cruiser. All of this serves to preserve ground clearance underneath. You'll notice this thing does have a ton of clearance, and if it had traditionally folding second and third row seats, that design would eat into the clearance underneath. So this vehicle is really unique. It's kind of like an old-fashioned wagon back here in that it's really just kind of a box with two driver's seats and then a big flat cargo floor onto which they've bolted rather than really integrated the second and third row seats. Clip that down, and kind of fidgety. Once again, if you're looking for a family SUV, you might not want to be bothered with all of the Land Cruiser and Lexus LX quirks right here. Okay, driving the Lexus LX. It is incredibly smooth, like very, very smooth. I've also returned 13.8 miles per gallon over the course of this week, so. You do get plenty of power from the 5.7 liter V8, 383 horsepower and 403 pounds-feet of torque. There's 50. I hit it a little bit late there. This thing is quoted at 7.1 seconds from 0 to 60, so the engine's fine. The power's there when you want it. It's not particularly fast. That said, I've seen the Land Cruiser clocked at as low as 6.5 seconds, so the added weight of this vehicle does penalize it in that regard. Another area where it falls a little bit short due to the extra heft, probably due to that air suspension as well, is when it comes to towing. The Land Cruiser is rated to tow up to 8,100 pounds. The LX is rated for only 7,000 pounds, so you lose 1,100 pounds of towing capacity. This is a big, heavy vehicle, though. It weighs almost 6,000 pounds. It comes in at like 5,900 and change. I think that's in part what gives it such a smooth ride, is that all that weight, all that mass just eats up the bumps in the road, and coupled with the air suspension, yeah, this is one of the nicest riding vehicles on the market, probably. This thing does have active safety features. Unfortunately, though, they're very early generation features. Like it has a lane departure warning, but it doesn't have lane keep assist. So it will beep at you if you start to venture outside of your lane, but it won't nudge you back into your lane. That's because the 200 series platform still uses an old mechanical steering setup, so the technology isn't there for the vehicle to be able to take control of the wheel. It has radar cruise control, but again, it doesn't work at low speeds, so it's not going to work in stop and go traffic. So it does have automatic high beams, does have blind spot monitoring. It has a forward collision warning system. I'm not sure if it'll bring itself to a full stop. The 8-speed automatic transmission's pretty nice. The gear ratios are good. It never feels like it's over revving. Manages to keep the vehicle, again, pretty serene and relatively quiet. We'll do our speed bump test here. This one will be at, it was about 18 miles per hour. Next one we'll do at, it was about 20, barely even felt it. The air suspension really neutralized the bump. And this one's a little bit bigger. We'll try to hit this one at around 25. The cars in front of me are all slowing down a lot for the speed bump. Yeah, no kind of clattering at all. One thing that drives me nuts about the Land Cruiser is that it doesn't have the functionality where if you just tap the turn signal, it'll blink 3 times for a lane change. The LX does have that functionality, so there you go, it blinked 3 times. I don't understand why they've gone to the trouble of designing different stocks for the LX and for the Land Cruiser, given that like every new car has that tap to pass functionality. Backup camera is not good. That again goes with the theme that this vehicle has absolutely horrible and obsolete cabin technology. It does have a 360-degree top-down view, but resolution is just very poor. It's hard to tell what's a shadow and what might be a living thing even. I'm gonna turn this thing off. Just on that drive, we've dropped our fuel economy to 13.5 miles per gallon. So yeah, enough of that. Anyway, there is your look at the 2021 Lexus LX 570. This vehicle is interesting for a number of reasons. It represents, in a lot of ways, the best of the best. It's built on the 200 series platform. Therefore, it is overbuilt. Look at the front control arms on this thing, and they are thicker than on any other vehicle on the market. The air suspension is pretty robust, especially for an air suspension system. It's functional in terms of cargo space, at least in 5-passenger form with this third row seat. It's kind of weird. That brings me to the drawbacks of the LX here. It's just compromised, and for a number of reasons. If you're looking for a 3-row luxury family SUV, this really isn't it, unless you're a Land Cruiser and LX enthusiast. In that case, you're going to love this thing because you're going to like it for its strengths and you're going to be able to ignore its weaknesses. But if you're looking for a competent, modern 3-row SUV, this thing really isn't competitive in 2021. It is horribly, horribly, horribly inefficient. The third row seat is small and cramped and compromised. The infotainment system is terrible. It's junk. It's the worst infotainment system on the market. It's got, unfortunately, this one has these optional DVD screens, which are also not good. They don't incorporate any kind of modern technology. Apparently this thing has Amazon Alexa for 2021, but it doesn't have Android Auto. It doesn't have Apple CarPlay. The active safety features are pretty limited. They're there, so you do get blind spot monitoring. You do get automatic high beams, radar cruise. But beyond that, it's a pretty early take on active safety because, again, they really haven't updated this thing at all since 2016, and they haven't fully redesigned it since 2008. So the basic underpinnings of this vehicle are now going on 14 years old. So it's time for an update. It's time for this thing to be all new, and luckily for 2022, it will be all new. It'll start at over $100,000, but it should incorporate all that modern technology that this one right here is missing. So there's your look at the Lexus LX. Simultaneously one of the most interesting and frustrating vehicles on the market. Thanks for watching.